We'll figure. It says okay.
Okay.
So we good. All
All
right.
right. We're
So,
live.
um,
Lord have mercy. On TV.
I want people to know my name is Dr. T. Hassan Johnson. I am sitting here with my father, Dr. C. Danny Johnson, and we are on the second episode of his show called Something to Think About. Um, if you could tell us what it is you want to do with this show.
That's still getting worked out because I don't want to seem vain that I have answers to questions people have. But since my fundamental purpose for living has been to help people and to try and understand some of the things that, or how to navigate some of the things that cause us so many problems and issues, so that we're taken advantage of so completely by others. So I just want to have something to offer, something to kind of throw out there. Hope it helps. Hope it helps. I am fundamentally a Christian. I don't mean a fundamentalist Christian. I'm born. My whole life has been in the church, but I do recognize the discrepancies.
Mm-hmm.
So this would allow me to address those things as they come up.
What now? You've been on a journey, most particularly, and I'm saying this selfishly, in my lifetime, I've witnessed you've been on a journey for truth. Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about, what that journey has looked like, in terms of the different things you've gone through, studied, practiced?
That's an interesting question because, about time you were being envisioned, um, there was an effort on, at least on my part, to grow beyond what exposed me to the world, which was being a part of the Black Panther Party and a part of the '60s activities, but I was not real inclined to be a pacifist in the same way as Dr. King and those who ran with him. But it just opened so many different doors. So I started to explore politics. I explored uh, Islam. My father, your grandfather, Muhammad Rashid, he was a Muslim, or he became a Muslim.
Which
I
and
did too.
you name
That's where you got your name.
well you and you named this show in relation to him.
This is true. The name or the phrase "something to think about" is a series of books that my father wrote that were basically all parables. And they were parables that spoke to or tried to address truths in life. So just the conversation about the role truth plays has been important in my life since I was 14.
Mhm.
I'm 71 now,
Okay.
and I'm still wrestling with that issue because I found I found it to be the key that for me unlocks a lot of theological questions,
Okay.
and it
Okay.
takes it out of the realm of culture and habit and tradition, and it brings it back into reality.
Tell us a little bit about some of the places you've traveled that have also helped to open your perspective. Where have you been?
Well, I've been all across this country many times because I used to drive a truck. Um,
Yeah, I remember when I was a kid, 18-wheeler, right?
yeah. I used to go and pack up you and your sister, put y'all up in the truck, and we gone down the road. It was scary at first for you both because you was up so high, but
Well, and
uh,
you were a bodybuilder with a long Jerry curl too. So that was the early 80s, right? I
yeah,
loved it.
my hero was Lee Haney. Yeah,
But
but besides that, just here, my first excursion out of the country was to Mexico, and then next came Belize, and we even visited Guatemala and Mexico while in Belize. After that, started going back and forth to East Africa, to Kenya, and well, different regions, because sometimes you cross the border and not necessarily know it.
Yeah.
But yeah, and that I did that for 20 years.
Didn't you go to the Middle East too?
I did, yes. Boy, you got better memory than I do. I've been to Iraq, Saudi Arabia, Israel, Egypt. Yeah. Yeah, all exploring life as it was. We had a lot of conversations with people that were interesting.
Yeah.
From all different cultures. And that's exciting. And I really wish more people of our hue had that opportunity, because we've been put in a bubble, in a box.
Yeah.
And just like they say, you got to think outside of the box. My message is there's no box.
Okay.
There's the box, whatever box you're in,
Mm-hmm.
you invented it or somebody invented it for you.
Okay. What
But, yeah.
if you were able to have done all of the traveling that you've done earlier in life, what do you think might have been different? How did those travels open you up? Or what I shouldn't maybe I should just ask, what did they do?
They ultimately they help me see that if you want to genuinely bless someone's life,
Mm-hmm.
you have some choices. You can say some nice things to them.
Mm-hmm.
You can befriend them in ways that kind of meet their immediate need, or you can hook them up with others who can potentially set them on a different path from whichever one they're in.
Mm-hmm.
Or, and I think this is what I ultimately learned, if you can't help someone see how to change their own environment themselves, you haven't helped them.
Okay.
It's like that adage of you can feed a person with a fish for a day, or you can teach them how to fish.
Yeah.
But see, what bursted my dam was two friends, Hardale Thomas and Archie Smart.
Okay.
We were talking about this one day, and Hardale introduced the concept of you have back up. You have consumption, but he introduced me to the concept of prosumption, in that what you need to sustain yourself, if you produce it, you're free. You're freer than otherwise.
Okay.
So, that became a big thing. And so I learned a lot about business. I learned a lot about cooperation. I learned a lot about how, if people work together in certain ways, they can most definitely change their environment. They can.
Okay.
It may not happen overnight, but
Okay.
it can happen. And that's the whole point. And to me, that's really the whole point of the gospel.
Well, but I noticed you have a strong, what they would now call social justice bent to your work. A lot of what I've seen you do in my lifetime has been around, as you say, helping people learn to fish. And you've done that internationally. How much, before I ask you about the projects you've done, how much of that was related to the Black Panther Party?
Most all of it. Because the Panther Party helped me to appreciate in very practical terms, as well as both the scholarship that was involved and the philosophies that were entertained. And so we're talking about all these conversations taking place among people that some were educated and some were not, but all had a common interest, which was the preservation of others. Created a whole different dynamic. And that influenced me personally to a point where I did my master's thesis on using the Black Panther Party as a model for the church. I felt like, and I still do, I feel like a a serious church ought to look like the Black Panther Party.
Wow. What do you mean?
I did my thesis on that, and I got my degree. It's on the wall. And it was not a Black institution. It was an all-white institution.
But what do you mean by that when you say the church should look like the Panther Party?
The Panther Party was a group of people who shared a common interest, common need, common vision, common hope. There were things that we held in common, and there were also things that needed to be addressed in the real, not just an idea.
Mm-hmm.
Something needed to happen, and it had to be in such a way that more than just one person could do it.
Mm-hmm.
So the party set my mind spinning in a lot of ways, and like most people overlook the fact that Huey P, he was kind of crazy, but his dad was a preacher.
Okay.
See what I'm saying? He grew up
Mm-hmm.
under a preacher. Now, he was in the street. He liked to fight. His older brothers and liked to, they were rough folk, but they knew more than people may have been able to appreciate.
Right.
And a lot of that anger comes from that, a lot of those qualities they didn't see in life.
Mm-hmm.
Justice was not easily come by. Fairness didn't happen. Truth, people were lied to consistently for centuries. So that's frustrating.
Yeah.
So I think that most people miss a lot because they get very shallow in terms of their appreciation of what it takes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, going back, so you've had this experience where you've gone to school, you've gotten various degrees, you've traveled the world, and I'm going out of order, of course. You've studied different religious paths. You've been an activist involved in different things since you were a teenager. If you were giving insight to a young person, who may even be in their teens, trying to come to some kind of sense about, what they should do, what life is, how they should view it, what to take seriously, what to not take seriously, what would be some of the first things you would tell them?
Wow, that's a big one. My wife and I were kind of talking about that last night, where, well, number one, teenage years, regardless as to where or who is involved, from 12 to 30 is a crapshoot for a lot of people because insanity just seems to be part of the program. You do dumb stuff, and because you're learning, you're exploring, you're trying to see what's what. So I would really say that one of the more difficult things for young people is to appreciate a good work ethic, being one who is willing and committed to doing the best you can at whatever you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And to be disciplined, I think, are real important characteristics that can serve you well anywhere in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
You can overcome all kinds of problems with those two things. Curiosity, intellectual acumen helps. It helps because education is really everything.
Yeah.
We learn from day one. We learn from the day we come into this world until the day we leave. And I love to remind young people in particular that you have to learn how to get old, because you may not get old.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things I've learned about what it means to be 70 plus. And it's all on the job learning, man.
Yeah.
But it's focus and commitment to excellence matters. It matters.
What doesn't matter as much as people may think?
Most of the things we fascinate about. For example, people get all caught up on on logos, images, brands. That's all smoke. It means nothing. If you have the latest brand of something and that's, a real big issue for you, and I'm not trying to put anybody down, but for the most part, it doesn't mean a thing. It doesn't make you any better. Doesn't make you anything. It makes you poorer.
Mhm.
You're spending money on stuff. Because there's so much, we invest a lot into ideas and images
Yeah.
that have absolutely nothing to do with the concrete realities of life.
Yeah. Yeah.
So prestige, that's another one. It seems like, well, we had a great illustration of that here recently. Very famous, prosperous actor, I think ultimately kind of let his own idea of prestige for himself go too far.
Okay.
Now, if he ever works again, I'll be surprised.
Wow.
And it's just because he's invested in how people perceive an image
Mhm.
rather than pursue the reality that,
Well, no,
that
let's explore that.
okay.
How does somebody let go of an investment that, upon hearing what you're saying, may say, you know what, this I'm spending too much energy on the wrong thing. How would you suggest someone learn to let go of something? And it could be a thing, it could be a profession, it could be a relationship, it could be anything. How would you suggest they let go?
Letting go is hard. I'll acknowledge that. Letting go is hard. It's like sort of like addictions. Everybody deals with actually a variety of addictions.
Mhm.
We focus on drugs and alcohol, but there are so many others. Um, it means that you have to come to terms with the true value of what it is you're in pursuit of.
Yeah. Yeah.
What is the true value? Okay, in California, it's part of the culture to assume a lot of people that travel to Southern California in the LA Hollywood area are there because they want to get into entertainment and
Mhm.
they're trying to figure out who can they smooth, who can they
Mhm.
get with that's going to help them get somewhere else. That in and of itself can take you down all kinds of hills and valleys and detours because you're trying to appease people
Mhm.
in the moment rather than develop your craft.
Okay.
I believe that if you're good at what you do, they come to you
Okay.
rather than you pursue them
Can
because
you
they need you.
Mhm. Okay.
That's my thinking about that. It's hard to let go, but you got to know what it is.
Well, can you tell us a brief story about something you had to let go of and how you did it? Could be anything.
Well, something that I was really, really in love with was bodybuilding,
Mhm.
and I was completely, fully addicted to being in a gym at least 6 days a week,
Mm.
working my tail off. And a time came where life circumstances disallowed that.
Yeah.
So my choice became stay with the weight training in the hopes of becoming a pro or a coach, or which would have cost me my family,
Wow.
or let it go to another part of the state, which I was in Southern California then. I was going to go back. I was going to go up to Northern California, look for work because I couldn't find anything in Southern Cal. and just commit to something I couldn't even anticipate. I couldn't envision what was going to happen, but I did know I need to make a move. I need to change. So I invested in the change in the hope of creating a new opportunity for myself, which I did. And but I had to sacrifice the weight training, and my body reflects that now. But
I
that
think,
was a big thing for me. That was a huge thing.
because the core of that is you sacrifice something you really love to do,
Yeah, yeah,
and you did it to, you know, provide for others, right?
yeah.
You transitioned into other things. Is that when I don't know what you transitioned into. Do you remember? Was it
Yeah,
just a job?
I moved up to San Jose from San Bernardino, and I got Tommy, my friend Tommy Waller, gave me a job at his sheet metal shop for a while, and that was interesting. And then my wife and I decided to start a business. Actually, it was her idea, and so we started a janitorial business
I was on that. Okay. Yeah.
that did real well. It did real well. We stayed with that for years, and uh, it provided for everything we had need of. We weren't wealthy, but you know, we
But
knew the rent was going to get paid.
yeah. So, but you went from something you loved to something that ended up doing well, but it wasn't necessarily anything you planned.
Right.
So, talking to, you know, somebody who has not experienced that yet, you know, somebody like your grandson, what would you tell them the overall lesson is when it comes to having to make a choice like that?
They're hard to make. They're hard. It's hard to make those kinds of decisions. But we live on we live on a treadmill that has a time limit.
Mm-hmm.
So the longer it takes for a person to make a decision about stopping something and starting something means there's less time for the start.
Okay.
So it's difficult, but it's not unlike learning to swim.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta let go of what you're used to and grab hold of, water and learn to swim.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I think
Gotta
that
let go.
thank you. Thank you for doing this. And this is the launch of something to think about. So keep tuned in and listen to what the doc has to say. Um, so yeah, go ahead and hit the button, Pop.
Gotcha.